Now, obviously, I understand it's incredibly difficult to separate the politics and the religion from this discussion, but I suppose it could be worth just taking a few minutes trying to understand the history of the region. Let's bring in a historian, Professor Pitika Ntuli, who has very kindly made time for me this Sunday afternoon. Prof, good to have you with us. And I don't even know where one would begin to pick up the history between Israel and Palestine, the Gaza Strip, and we will get to, if we have time, Hamas in this. Prof, where would you begin in trying to explain this story? Where's the moment in time, the annals of time, where you'd like to start?
We should remember that the colonial British government in 1947 imposed the state of Israel on a land that belonged to the Palestinians. And what the British themselves had started, America is one now that is sending billions of arms and aid to Israel. But before we go to that, when we talk about Israel, it's not a simple matter. There are Jewish people there, and there's a Zionist right-wing government that is doing this. It is not actually in the name of the broad, ordinary people who would like to live side by side. We see now, actually, onto the street, young Jewish people in America and in other places saying, not in our name, and of course, the Americans would address them. I heard the Israeli ambassador saying, okay, Hamas is a terrorist group. Now, when someone says that, and you look at how small Gaza has been, they are threatening to raise Gaza, move 1 million people on roads that were bombed by the very Zionist generals. The people, ordinary people, would like peace and justice to live side by side with each other. We've got friends that are Jewish that are in Israel, even as we speak. They are absolutely very clear. The tragedy in all of these things is that it's ordinary people, that die, ordinary children, Jewish children, Palestinian children. It really puzzles one to hear the ambassador speaking of genocide. What is this moving? What is this bombing? What is this erasure? Unfortunately, we wipe out our historical memories when we deal with these things. The trauma of 6 million Jews in the hands of Nazis and Nazi generals is a stain that will remain with us as long as we live on this earth. It will not be forgotten. The Holocaust is there. Do we want, therefore, the people who suffer the Holocaust to cause the Holocaust of the people there, raising their tongues, pushing them away? In other words, sanity must definitely do, but then sanity requires intelligence. People who are intelligent will be able to enter into a discussion, negotiations, you find common ground. But people without brains, all they have, their brains are in their rockets.
When I look back, just very briefly, Prof, I'm trying to understand historically what could be the indicator, what could be the marker for any potential de-escalation of violence. The last time many people, and tell me if you agree or not, we saw an actual winding down of the Intifada was in 1993. It was Arafat and Rabin at the time, of course, from both Israel and Palestine. That seemed to be, and they were with Bill Clinton from the United States, which is also arguably another point we can discuss with American politics maybe another day. Since then, there hasn't really been, some historians are arguing, an actual peace plan in progress. This was always at the tipping point. We were always going to have another conflict like this, weren't we?
Yes, we were expecting a conflict like this, but neither side seemed to be willing to sit down, around the table. But unfortunately, that the people who will these things are also controlled by other people who fund them, there. So the decisions have got to be an American decision, it's going to be an Israeli decision, it's going to be Hezbollah or Hamas, onto the other side. And one would call upon the United Nations, the EU, African Union, every political formation to say no, because that would actually create a precedent that cities could be razed and people could be moved away.
Is it possible, as quickly as possible, Prof, to try and imagine a way that this comes to an end? Who needs to do what? I know I'm asking an impossible question. Who needs to do what to try and at least de-escalate the situation, Prof?
But the Security Council has got power to make that intervention. It is security. And what we are talking about are the matters of security. And the Security Council is quiet. But Guterres, up at the United Nations, made the position clear that they actually want peace. But the issue should be practical steps, not just words, but programs of action that are going to stop this blood flow.
I wonder if the Zoom hasn't failed me at the worst possible moment. Prof, I'm going to give it a second, but I think you have made your point. Professor Pitika Ntuli, historian. It's a difficult conversation to only have in a few minutes, Prof, and I appreciate your time. I think just setting at least a scene of where it was and where we are now, but there's a lot more involved in that. And I sure hope you and I get to talk again in the days to come. Professor Pitika Ntuli, thank you very much for your time.